No! Welcome to day 2 of the 2020 Spooktoberfest. Today we're talking about the lore. Polish writer, director
Agnieszka Smoczyńska
released her feature debut back in 2015, which I've never heard of, and I'm glad that this month is giving me a chance to watch things that would have never come under my radar. This one is on the Criterion channel, so if you have the subscription, you can watch it right now. It is based and inspired by the fairy tale The Little Mermaid by the Danish author Hans Christian Andersen. The lore is about two sisters who happen to be mermaids coming to land and perform at a nightclub. So while the two sisters are being exposed to sex, alcohol, tobacco, we also get to see them eating people for food. The prologue pretty much got me expecting a horror film coming down the pike, but after the loud title card came up, an element of comedy was introduced to the mix before this turning into a musical. Basically, the lore is an exciting, genre-bending attempt. While not all of them work seamlessly, I think they pulled it off finally for the most part. If I were to pitch this, it would probably be Disney's The Little Mermaid, plus On Stranger Tides, plus probably The Border, and then making it all rated R. The shots here are gorgeous. This neon complementary color palette that's mostly creating the depth here while simultaneously booming this incredible soundtrack in the back. The sound is a huge part of this film and I loved it. That goes from the soundtrack to the unapologetic sound design that's drawing so much attention it feels more important than the picture itself. In pre-production, they apparently made a script for the sound, what they call it the sound script, that mapped the film out from beginning to end, narratively and emotionally. And then that became one of the elements to some of the rewrites that came afterwards. As the director herself calls it, the sound composition. While we're on the topic of sound, I just want to mention something that I've never seen before. We have little moments here and there where we racked focus alongside the sound effects to capture some internal stories. I thought that was really fresh. The use of CGI is bare minimum. The filmmakers didn't use it unless they feel they absolutely have to. The design of the tail is not anything that comes out of a fantasy book. It looks dirty, slimy. Considering what the story is actually about, I find using real practical effects for these moments, for the ugliness, to be really smart. When it comes to the genre-bending nature the lore has, I think they nailed the horror aspect of it. They got it right. The comedy aspect landed for me for the most part. The musical aspect, however, while I find them very enjoyable and refreshing, a chunk of the lyrics just didn't sit well with me. In my view, the lyrics in a musical are supposed to push or reflect the story or the character one way or another. In this case, there are a lot of musical numbers that are not earned. It feels like characters break out singing just to perpetuate the idea that this is still a genre. Do you remember this is still a musical? And the lyrics are just kind of being put aside here. Besides that, I just think from a screenwriting standpoint, the lore faltered just a bit because once they established the characters and the conflicts, it seemed they don't really know what to do and where to go afterwards. It feels like the story is just being put on hold for a chunk of the runtime because they don't know what to do with it. And until they picked it back up again, it's already a bit late. The mystery and suspense are set up really early, which is a good thing, but they released it almost instantaneously once the principles have been made clear. One of the examples I came up with is that imagine the actual shark in Jaws was shown super early in the film. Except in this case, the shark is the mystery this film had going for. When these two sisters turn into mermaids for the first time, people just kind of accept it. There's no wonder, there's no sense of fantasy or doubts, which makes it a bit unbelievable to me personally. Overall, the lore is, as I describe it, a coming-of-age film with horror and musical elements in it. It is a story about addiction, youth, growing up, identity, and temptation. Despite the weaker writing, I think the lore is a very exciting piece of filmmaking, and I think more people should give it a go. I'm thinking a strong 3 to a light 3.5. Have you seen it? If so, what do you think?